apologies, a bit late to the party. As you know, I have an interest in the combat mechanics and men-at-arms of Crusader Kings, and with a new DLC out and 5 new men-at-arms, well, technically 6 or maybe even 10, as well as a few other changes, I thought it'd be fun to review, stress test and give my thoughts. Starting with the new units, we're going to apply some previous tests we've done before. Max damage with regards to stack size and cost because, well, damage wins battles, the total damage in brackets, as well as the levy stress test, the more balanced considering damage and toughness, where we determine the maximum number of levies you can defeat with a single stack or a given amount of gold, in this case 1 gold. Using a script, command rolls and advantages are not considered, the total levies dispatched in brackets here. We'll show all of these ranked in comparison to the other 58 men-at-arms, as you can see below. Don't worry about not being able to read this on your phone, they'll be more readable when we look at each unit. Let's begin. Number 1. Akritai, available with the Imperial Tagmata tradition, the second weakest men-at-arms of the game, just below the generic light footman and just above the Volta infantry, but it is also the cheapest at 0.41 gold per stack. Same counters as usual, same terrain bonus as usual in the forest, but with the extra terrain advantage in hilly terrains like the Horn Warrior and the Abu Dra. So, running the test for this and comparing them to its counterparts I just mentioned, what you see is the men-at-arms on the y-axis and their rank for each test, with the total damage in brackets on the left and the total levies dispatched on the right. So we can see here the Akritai are joint 55th in total damage, last place, oh dear. And looking at the base stats without consideration of terrain, is doing pretty poorly in levies per stack and cost compared to its generic counterpart. But run the same test in mountains and you see its value, second in the world rankings for levies per gold spent, even number 8 in total damage. For a skirmisher, that's wild, definitely the best in the region. Bear in mind these tests consider the combat width of 50% in mountainous terrain. And the good news gets better, as what most people forget is that Byzantium is pretty mountainous, so there are swathes of land that they are good in. Hills too, where Akritai are ranked 5th in levies per gold. I also added pikemen to the comparison, notably also good in hills, but they are struggling to compete with the Akritai. I'm a fan of overwhelming numbers, and spamming this unit if say you are in the Balkans just makes sense, until money isn't an issue anymore anyway, so I really like this new unit. Number 2. Skoutatoi. Essentially pikemen, the same counters but with 2 more toughness, a little more expensive but now a bonus in plains. Not very exciting, but a bonus in mountains, hills and plains pretty much guarantees it will be favourable terrain in all of the Empire, so a very flexible choice. Compared to pikemen and the very cheap Akritai discussed earlier, in no terrain in particular, it isn't performing better than either, especially on the gold side of things. But trade that in for hilly terrain and, well, it isn't doing much better. Pikes still have the edge, Akritai even more so. It's that advantage in plains, however, that makes all the difference. So, otherwise, fairly solid and well-rounded. It becomes very meh outside its favoured terrain, and yeah, that's it. Not much more to say. Number 3. Ballistrai. I'm going to call them Ballista because that's what they are, right? At a quick glance, they have similar stats to archers, but with a siege bonus, making them one of the only 3 non-siege men-at-arms to have any. Pretty cool. However, this comes at a terrible cost. They only have a stack size of 50. So, they do less total damage than a basic archer and are incredibly weak. In fact, they have the smallest toughness of any stack. And being technically an archer means they're still countered by cav. The counters are useful, but bear in mind they're just half counters. So that, their cost and their siege bonus is probably what you're going to be using them for and not much else. I cannot see any use out of the 867 start date, but I'm willing to be proved wrong. Comparing them to bowmen and crossbows, they look pretty awful. In levies per stack, they are dead last out of every men-at-arms in the game. Yes, they get a bonus in hills, but so do bows and crossbows, but much better. They also get a bonus in farmlands, and well, it's weak and those are few and far between. It does not look good, but again, I want to be wrong. Number 4. Ayrudzi. Now we come to the interesting. Looking at the stats, a very powerful light horseman unit, but sadly limited to 50 a stack. So it feels like a heavy cav that sits somewhere between light and heavy cav. It is a big bonus in hilly terrain, which makes it similar to the Tawashi, which is very close to it. In fact, there's a lot of bespoke cav it is competing with nearby. One very cool thing about it is the rare counter to horse archers, the only one that exists pre-crossbows outside of China. So let's see if it stands out and compare to what's local. Looking at the total, it's the same rank exactly as the Tawashi, but with a slight edge on damage and levies per gold because of how cheap it is, so it's very cost effective. But this is in reality, as the tradition to get Ayrudzi gives a +4 to light cav and +20 to heavies as well, and a reduction in upkeep, at the cost of your vassals being a massive pain, apparently. So, boom, we have something even better in hills, especially with levies dispatch per gold, showing their toughness is a big part of their value, bringing it to rank 6 at its peak. Now, we can muddy the water here even further. What if you hybridize with your neighbour? Now, with this bonus, the Tawashi are much better in total damage per stack, and the heavy cav, all varieties, can hit brutally hard. Hybridizing with the Georgians can make some insane Monaspa, as would cataphracts with the Greeks, slightly overshadowing the Ayrudzi tied to the tradition. The good news is that unlike the terrain bonus, the flat bonus from traditions are added before the stationing bonus, which is awesome. It means that tradition is relevant long term. The slight downside is that the Ayrudzi is very dependent on terrains, and these are added after the stationing, so long term the Ayrudzi may become less effective. Personally, I think this is wrong, as terrain has and always will be important, right? Anyway, in summary, it's good, but not overpowered, like the Tawashi, with a little more oomph, a bit more rounded, and a lot less pursuit, and uniquely has that very rare anti-horse archer counter. Number 5, Cornra. Is that how you pronounce it? Maybe? Anyway, it's an armoured horseman, but -10 toughness and pursuit, with counter to light horseman, which in my opinion is the worst counter, but still nice to have. Crucially, it is unlocked by tradition, not innovation, so you can get it earlier. The terrain bonuses are the same though, except a +30 bonus in farmlands, which is cool and useful as typically farmlands sit near plains. They do get a damage bonus from their tradition, which is cool, but so do any heavy cav they use for that matter. So comparing them to armoured horsemen, with the tradition bonus applied to both, you can see they're the same damage per stack. Cornra are the best at damage per gold, as they are cheaper, but it is levies per stack where they start to fail in comparison to the armoured horsemen, as when money isn't an issue, that -10 toughness really stacks up, unless you have loads of levies to soak the damage. And also included is armoured footmen, the only other damage dealer you unlock early, but personally you'd be mad not to use the Cornra. We also have a variant of the Varangian veterans, but with a whole 2 more toughness, and limited to 1 regiment, and comes with a bloke who does things. The bad news is they loot the family silver when you pop your clogs. There are also special bandit men-at-arms you can get via an event as an adventurer. They count as special troops, and well, they're certainly special in that they are very generic, so let's move on. You also have a loyal guard you can recruit as an adventurer if you fancy it, similar to the house guard. And speaking of the house guard, in balance changes the house guard has had its 5 stack limit removed, changing it from terrible to great. Excitingly, in other men-at-arms news, some traditions have been changed, most for the better. Going through some notable ones. Stand your ground. No cost to increase now, but everything gets tougher, even levies, but at the cost of your losses are so much more dire. Looking at a single battle you'll do fine, but an extended war may drain you of your men. I think this is a great improvement. Some, like formation fighting experts and hit and run taxis, had their bonus percentage boost swapped with a flat bonus, which is great. Strength in numbers just straight up prevents you from recruiting certain troops. Cultural ones too give flat bonuses like Land of the Bow. Did overpowered Nile archers need a bonus? No. Did they get one? Yes. Finally, frugal armourers. Makes troops cheaper, but weaker. So much weaker. -8 on levies. That means they have 2 toughness. What on earth were they thinking? They have no power increase. They're just glass. Well, cheap glass at least. I cannot see how this is applicable. Is it like hard mode or something? It just seems terrible. Some testing is needed here. Otherwise, the big note in balance changes is that AI will now consider your knights and men-at-arms in wars, and even in calling in allies. It's not sophisticated and doesn't consider buffs, but it's a vast improvement. Not sure if it includes factions, which they often pick a fight they cannot win, but yeah, they still appear to go off numbers for now. A massive change that has occurred is to advantage. Now this is huge. It used to be +1 advantage would give you +2% damage to your army overall. It has now been buffed to 10%, per advantage. That's insane. Commanders, location and supply are now so much more important. For example, if you cross a small river, the enemy could be doing 100% more damage to you. Wild stuff. Okay, so this was changed in a patch where one advantage is now 5% more damage, but you can pick anywhere between 1 and 10 of the game rules. Finally, longbows, perhaps the most powerful men-at-arms in the game, got a buff. So yeah, that happened. So that's it. Most of the military changes, well, the ones I cared about anyway. Just add the terrain bonus before the stationing bonus is added. That's all I want. If I'm wrong on this, please tell me why. Otherwise, more non-men-at-arms videos to come. I promise. Bye.